Welcome back. Today, we're here to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning, who, within the span of about a season, went from probably the worst team in hockey to one of the biggest underdogs in the sport, at least in my opinion. And to really talk about this, you have to look at as many of the stats as you can. So on the board, as you can see, we've got their records, their top 5 goal scorers, notable player, their goaltending situation, and a couple miscellaneous stats at the bottom. We're going to get into this. So 2015-16, coming into the season, not much was expected of Tampa Bay. They weren't expected to be the worst team in hockey. They were expected to be one of the worst, but it was more so expected that Tampa Bay would come in and probably finish around, 26th, 27th. But this was just a season of disasters for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They, interestingly enough, did not sell anybody at the deadline either. They stuck with this group throughout the rest of the season, and I can't say it really helped them much. Joe Corvo was their leading point scorer. He had 17 goals, 20 assists, 37 points. Only a minus 13 for the worst team in the NHL. With a 28-49-5 record, by the way. Like I said, 30th, it was worst in the NHL. They ended up dropping to, I believe it was second in the draft lottery. Tampa did end up dropping, I believe, that one spot. They picked Adam Fox, second overall. I want to say it was second overall. And, yeah, Joe Corvo, defenseman, 38 years old, was their leading point scorer. You guys are probably wondering what these asterisks are. I'll get to those later. Dave Bolland was second on the team in scoring with 11 goals, 21 assists, 32 points. Also a minus 13. Cody Hodgson had 14 goals, 18 assists, 32 points, and a minus 11. Ryan Hartman had 11 goals, 19 assists for 30 points. TJ Galliardi, who is a name that not many people bring up when talking about the Lightning in the squad too much anymore. He had 10 goals, 20 assists, 30 points. TJ Galliardi was usually best relied upon in a third line defensive shutdown type of role. This season he was forced onto the first line. He played well for what he could. I thought he played well enough. And my notable is Alex Pietrangelo, who in all 82 games, big things were expected of him. He puts up just 5 goals, 12 assists, and 17 points with a minus 22. Galliardi with a minus 19 as well. Pietrangelo in Tampa, it didn't work with Pietrangelo in Tampa Bay. It didn't work much, if at all. And yeah, Pietrangelo he would get traded. No big surprise. The goaltending situation is interesting because that's where it gets good for at least the starter. Ray Emery is their starter. I believe he started, or at least got into, I believe it was 72 games in the season. They played Ray Emery because they really had to. They had nobody else not in net. And he did pretty good given the team in front of him. He went 27, 40, and 2, so Emery wins 27 of 28 games. You know what that means. But a 27, 40, and 2 record, a 2.75 goals against average. Anything below a 3 goals against average was very, very good for this Tampa Bay team. And a 917 save percentage. So Ray Emery, very, very good stats behind the worst team in the NHL. He played well. He kept them in as many games as he could, but it just, unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Brian Elliott was their backup. He had 1 win, 11 losses, and no games going to the overtime or shootout that he won. He had a 3.37 goals against average and an 895 save percentage. And he was a pending UFA, and would you be surprised to find out they let him go? Yeah. Or actually, no, they did not let him go. I'll get to that in a little bit. But they had a 1.85 goals against average, goals for per game in 15-16. It was a miserable, miserable season. I think they scored, I think it was 130-something, 140-something goals that year. It was really, really bad for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They couldn't score. They really couldn't defend because they had a 3.02 goals against average per game, too. Pretty, yeah. And just overall, the season was a complete disaster for the Lightning. 10.3% on the power play. That was 30th in the National Hockey League, worst in the league. And 80.6% on the PK is 21st. They are operating at a total, I didn't put it on the board, but a 90.9 overall special teams. And sorry, yeah, that's bad. You don't need me to tell you. That is especially bad. Tampa Bay, whose general manager Austin Zepna, current general manager, took over during or right before the 15-16 season. He embraced the tank. He drafted Adam Fox. But then something weird happens. He trades Joe Corvo, which is fine. You know, these guys were expected, the guys that they moved were expected to be moved at the deadline. They were moved in the offseason. Joe Corvo gets traded to Washington, I believe it was for a second-round pick. Dave Bolland, I believe, got moved to the New York Rangers. Cody Hodgson, and Dave Bolland, by the way, who actually left partway through the season with Tampa Bay, or not partway through the season, at the end of the season, he told the Tampa Bay Lightning, I will not play for the Tampa Bay Lightning anymore. I will go to Europe. And they had to trade him, and he still went to Europe. Very controversial decision there by Dave Bolland, but it's one that the Rangers currently have to deal with. Cody Hodgson, they dealt him. They traded him away, I believe also to the New York Rangers. Ryan Hartman, they kept. TJ Galliardi, they let him walk to free agency. So their fifth highest point total on the team that year, and they let him walk for nothing. Alex Pietrangelo, they traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a conditional first. Of course, that was with David Swarovski and several other players that were cap dumps and moves to basically help out Columbus with their cap situation, bringing a conditional first that was, I think, top 8 protected. And I believe that pick did end up going back to Columbus, but I forget. Ray Emery, they kept. And Brian Elliott, they traded for future considerations to the New Jersey Devils. And he's in their AHL at the time of recording. So they traded guys, and when they were doing those trades, it was looking like they're going to be god-awful. So 2016-17 comes around, and they finish 42-33-7, which is 14th in the league. They are 4th in their division, and they squeak into the playoffs. Tampa started off pretty solid, and they just got better with the addition of Patrick O'Sullivan, who I did a video on recently. Actually, at the time of this posting, I'm not sure if that one's out yet or not, but if it's not, surprise, there's going to be a Patrick O'Sullivan video. If it is, then go check that one out. But Patrick O'Sullivan, who scored 70 goals this past season, added 34 assists for 104 points with a plus 38. O'Sullivan had one of the best years I think I've ever seen in hockey last season. And, yeah. Yuri Hudler had 18 goals. He had 18 goals, 63 assists for 81 points. Vladimir Tarasenko had 19 goals, added 56 assists for 75 points with a plus 29. Brian Elliott had 17 goals, 30 assists, 47 points, and a minus 14. And Mike Richards had 29 goals, 15 assists for 44 points, and a plus 4. What happened? How did they go from their leading point scorer having 37 points, or their leading point scorer, to their leading goal scorer having 70 goals? Who, I want to point out, their leading point scorer was also their leading goal scorer in both seasons. Well, we got to look at this. Before we move on to any of this stuff, we gotta discuss this. Because Patrick O'Sullivan started the season off very, very well in Buffalo. He's traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Buffalo deals him, I believe it was a first-round pick and a couple prospects that went Buffalo's way. It's a deal that does not look good for Buffalo right now. If Patrick O'Sullivan does anything near this level of production next year, if he even gets 40, 50 goals, 60, 70 points at the very least, it's a down year definitely from what this season was, but it's still damn good. Patrick O'Sullivan, absolutely, he fits in Tampa, in my opinion. I think he works incredibly well. Probably the best hockey that he's played in his career, which, 70-goal season, who would have thought? Best hockey of his career. Yuri Hudler and Vladimir Tarasenko are both acquired from the Maple Leafs. Tampa trades away their second overall pick in Yuri Hudler, and they deal him to Toronto for both Hudler and Tarasenko. So, yeah, Toronto. Interesting decision there. Like I said, they trade off Yuri Hudler, Vladimir Tarasenko, and they get one of the best young defensive prospects in the NHL right now in Adam Fox. That's I don't want to say it's a fleece for Toronto because I don't like saying the trades are complete fleeces. But Tarasenko having a pretty good year, Hudler having a good year. I don't know if I'd rather not have Adam Fox, honestly. I don't know if I'd rather not have Adam Fox. Brian Little was acquired in free agency after the Dallas Stars bought him out. So Brian Little gets bought out, signs with Tampa, and follows it up with a 47-point season. Dallas definitely misses Brian Little. They made the playoffs this year. They got to the second round. Brian Little could have helped them out a lot. Brian Little definitely could have done something for this team, for that Dallas Stars team. along with Eric Stahl, who they weirdly also bought out, but that's for another video. But Brian Little acquired him free agency. Mike Richards is traded with Winnipeg. Very similar situation to Dave Bolland. Mike Richards did not want to play with Winnipeg. Stayed in Europe the entire 15-16 season. Did not play a single NHL game. Winnipeg tried to trade him during the season. Mike Richards did not want to be traded to certain places. And then finally, he agrees to a deal with Tampa Bay. And he plays for them. 29 goals. I think that says he wants to be in Tampa Bay. So they got all of their top 5 goal scorers from completely different teams and traded out 4 out of their 5. Ryan Hartman, who I believe barely missed the top 5, had, I believe, 41 points. Actually led the team in playoff scoring. I didn't put the playoff stats up here, but they did lose in the second round. They did beat the Washington Capitals in the first round and lost to, I believe it was the New York Rangers, who lost to Montreal, who lost to Chicago. So Washington, actually, if you will, the biggest loser of the playoffs. They lost to Tampa, who lost to the Rangers, who lost to Montreal, who lost to Chicago. Funny how that works out. But yeah, my notable, Zach Bogosian, a guy who actually produced better numbers in the 15-16 season, played way better. He had only 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points, but he was a plus 20. Zach Bogosian played some of his best hockey in 16-17. He was great defensively, didn't put up many points, but that's what you want out of Zach Bogosian. Not many points, great defensive play. That's what you get, and that's what Tampa Bay, that's what you want, and that's what Tampa got this year with Zach Bogosian. Their goaltending. This is really, really interesting. San Jose had a falling out with Rick DiPietro. San Jose did not want to pay Rick DiPietro $8 million for a year. They had extended him, and they did not want to honor the contract. And obviously, they weren't going to buy him out. They were shopping him. Tampa Bay takes him on for a second-round pick. The Tampa Bay Lightning say, hey, we need a starting goaltender. Rick DiPietro can be our backup. Ray Emery can be our backup. We want Rick DiPietro. So they get Rick DiPietro. I believe they traded, I think it was a second-round pick for Rick DiPietro's signing rights. They gave him $8 million for a year. San Jose and Rick DiPietro had agreed to the contract before it was fully announced, obviously. However, they did not want to honor that contract. So they were really shopping him already signed, but they had to make it look like it was his UFA rights. Yeah, and DiPietro that season went 35, 26, and 3. The record is not amazing. But a 2.39 goals against average and a .921 save percentage. That is very good. That is the Rick DiPietro we knew from San Jose, and he played incredible in this season for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He clicked right in. And Ray Emery, he played well too. 8-6-1 record with a 2.65 goals against average and a .911 save percentage. And I'm actually laughing because he had a worse save percentage than the season where they were tanking. But consider this. He played 71 games this season. I'm pretty sure he played 16 in 16-17. I'm pretty sure he was pulled once. So Ray Emery technically has a better season the year he was the starter. But overall, he is better in that season with the Tampa Lightning, this most recent season. I apologize, by the way, for the garb. I do not have a Tampa jersey. Figured one out the next best team out of Florida. And the Chicago hat is because I don't have a Tampa hat, so why not? A team that I think if they ever make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, they could end up facing. I'd stay tuned for that. Chicago, of course, the reigning defending Stanley Cup champions right now. Great stats overall for their goaltending. They had a 2.85 goals per game, goals for per game. They went up an entire goal from the year before. So, 15-16, they went from scoring 1.85 goals for per game. Their leading goal scorer has 17 to having a 2.85 goals per game. Leading goal scorer has 70. They have depth scoring. They have, just on the board, 70, 29, 19, 18, I believe Brian Little, 17. They have depth goal scoring. It falls off a lot, obviously, from O'Sullivan, 70 to 29. Ideally, you would want O'Sullivan to score 50, then Richard, say, 30. Tarasenko, you'd want him to hit 20, 25. He's still young. He can definitely hit that, maybe even 30, I think. Little to be 20, Hoodler, you don't really expect goals out of Hoodler anyways. The 63 assists is what you really want out of him. And yeah, they played very, very well. They had a 2.54 goals against per game too. And the interesting thing is there's a little bit of concern, I think, with Tampa Bay. Because they traded Yuri Hoodler, actually. They traded 2 of these guys. They traded out Yuri Hoodler. They traded him to Florida. He's now with the New York Rangers. Of course, Hoodler was getting paid $10 million for this next season. They dealt him to Florida, and Florida wanted to make some free agency splashes. They said they really liked Hoodler. They wanted him to play, but they dealt him for futures and ended up getting the guys that they wanted. Tampa Bay, you got to think, would have liked to keep Yuri Hoodler. However, with the cap that he was getting paid, for them, they might have said it wasn't worth it, even though it's only a 1-year deal. It was weird. They actually traded Ram as well to the Florida Panthers. He's now in Pittsburgh, so apparently when Florida and Tampa make deals together, they don't like keeping the players that they get because, again, Hoodler is now at the Rangers. Emery's now with the Penguins. Neither of them played a game for the Florida Panthers, so yeah. So people are concerned. O'Sullivan surely can't have another 70-goal season, right? Like, there's no way he can follow up a 70-goal season with even a 60-goal season, right? Like, the most, maybe 50. Maybe 55. Maybe he gets close to 60. People have been concerned about that. Tarasenko, there's a little bit concerned that he's turning into more of a playmaker than a sniper, which is what people project him to be. Richards, can he follow up a near 30-goal season with another 20, 25-goal season? Bogosian, I think people are relying a lot on Bogosian's defensive play to carry the blue line. Their blue line, I think, was actually considerably worse than 15-16 because, again, Joe Corvo, 37 points, led the Tampa Bay Lightning in points overall and obviously defenseman points. The leading point scorer was not Bogosian, but I believe it was Michael Del Zotto, had 13 points. Tampa very much relied on the offense provides the offense, defense plays defense method, and it definitely worked for them this year. We'll see if it does next year. They had a 20.1 power play percentage, not that great on the power play. They were 14th in the league, though, so yeah, 20.1% power play. They were very average in the NHL. You ideally want that to go top 10, especially if you have O'Sullivan, Tarasenko, Little, Richards all playing on there. You want that above a 22-23%. I think you want to at least try and be a top 10% power play team in the National Hockey League. They had an 81% PK, which was 16th in the league. With how many good defensive players they have as well, you want that to be higher. You do want that to be higher. However, they were operating at 101.1%, or LOL1 if you will. They were operating at 101.1% on special teams overall, which is very, very good. It's not very, very good. It's above average. That's good. Again, ideally you want both those numbers to be up next season, especially if you plan on contending, because Tampa barely has any picks for the next 3 seasons. So they're clearly going in for a cup run. They really want the Stanley Cup, obviously, and yeah. But overall, Tampa, what a turnaround. I don't think anybody could have seen them going from the worst team in hockey to 14th overall and making the playoffs and actually getting out of the first round. I don't think anybody could have seen that. With the way that they traded for their top 5 point scorers, 7 of 8 players that are on this side of the board, and then traded or signed all 5 of their top free agents, their starting goaltender, and still traded 2 of these guys on the right side of the board. We'll see. But Tampa Bay, let me know your thoughts on them in the comment section below, how you thought about the 15-16 season compared to the 16-17 season, what you'd like to see out of them for this year if you're a Tampa Bay fan. If you're not, let me know what you think of, I guess, Patrick O'Sullivan, because O'Sullivan's been the talk of the league for about a year now, for the whole season with his 70 goals, 50 and 50, obviously, all that. So, yeah. Again, that's going to do it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a comment, subscribe if you're just passing on your way through. And, my name is Harry Rice. Enjoy. Thank you guys for coming by. See you guys in the future. My name, again, Harry Rice. Love you guys. Bye.